которые касаются той темы, которая у нас сегодня обозначена, и буду адресовать их, соответственно, коллегам. Мне очень хочется, чтобы у нас такая живая дискуссия состоялась, потому что та тема, которая сейчас будет обсуждаться, мне кажется, очень такая животрепещущая. У нас многие из тех, кто знаком с образовательной политикой, знают, что этот год объявлен годом науки и технологий в России. И сейчас, собственно, у нас в том числе в связи с этим, хотя и не только, ведутся большие дискуссии про научную деятельность студентов и аспирантов. Часто звучат реплики про крайне низкую эффективность аспирантуры, про кризис российской аспирантуры, и высказывается много разных экспертных мнений, исследовательских мнений вокруг этой проблематики. И здесь, мне кажется, очень важным, чтобы мы вот эту тему сейчас тоже подняли. Каковы те сложности, с которыми сегодня сталкиваются магистранты, которые планируют для себя академическую карьеру. Такие есть, мы знаем, что...
Program students, especially those who are planning to pursue to the doctoral studies.
И аспиранты, которые в целом нацелены на то, чтобы в первую очередь двигаться в рамках академической карьеры.
And I know many doctoral students who want in future continue working in the area of research. So that's the outline of issues and challenges. And today I'd like to hear your opinions about best practices that your universities have, how to enhance efficiency of our master and doctoral students, how can we engage them into project-based research, and how to make their efforts beneficial for the university to enhance the university ranking or international reputation. We have a trend for co-authoring research, and these people also somehow promote the research agenda of our university. So I hope that Maria is here today with us, and I'd like to address my first question to her, because we are inside our university are like a family, and sometimes the vision gets blurred. So my question is as follows. How do you think relevant is the general trend of discussion I have outlined for you? What is the current state of the art at your university? Because I suppose you have a great international experience. So which trends do we have worldwide in your country in terms of engaging master and doctoral students into research activities? And Maria Sirato is a coordinator of psychology of the Faculty of Psychology and Education Studies from the International University of Catalonia. So a big thank you for joining us today. And could you please answer my first question? Maria, are you here? Are you with us? Can you hear us all right?
Sorry, are you speaking to me?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't speak Russian, so I don't understand.
Did you hear the translation?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's the point, that all the time I'm only listening to Russian. So at some point you said my name several times and there was a silence. So I was like, okay, it might be I should speak, but...
Sorry, I hope that we have a translation. So I will try to repeat briefly what I have said previously, because I said that in Russia now we have a big discussion around the effectiveness of master programs and effectiveness of PhD programs, because we have very low completion rate. And there are many statements in press or in academic discussion that now we have a crisis of PhD studies or crisis of master students. And my question to you was that are the discussions around the master programs and PhD programs the same in Spain? And I know that you have very big international experience. So what is the main statements? What are the main problems which discuss international discussions around the master programs and PhD programs?
Okay, thank you very much. Shall I put my webcam maybe? Yes. So I'm gonna, so now you can see me? Okay, great, because I never use Zoom, so I'm new with this this thing. Okay, very good. Okay, well, so first of all, thank you very much for this invitation. I would like to know more or less how long time I have to give my presentation. Okay, great. Okay, so, well, I was very happy, as I said, to be invited to this talk, because when I did my PhD, well, maybe I think it's a good idea if I give a brief summary about my background, right? So when I did my thesis dissertation, I'm going to tell you the name of my thesis dissertation, and then you will understand better everything I'm going to talk briefly afterwards. Okay, so it is Writing Conceptions and Psychological Well-being in PhD Studies, Students' Perspectives. Okay, so as you can see, my field of research has to do with research or development, which is quite a new research field in investigation, especially inside higher education. So I come from education, but traditionally, as you know, research with students has taken place kindergarten, primary education, secondary education, and lately higher education. But research or development, this is something quite new in the last maximum 10 years, right? So I was very much interested in to see how these writing conceptions of students and their ideas and beliefs on their habits and routines surrounding writing had to do somehow with their well-being. So this was the main thing of my thesis. And after that, I've been working as a postdoc in different universities in Europe, and I have been giving a speech on my thesis and, well, on how to improve writing skills in PhD students, right? And also I've been a trainer of students in this thing. I don't know if you know this idea of writing retreats. So you take some time specifically to write, and you take peace for that, and so on. So all the speech I've been doing about writing and how to write a good dissertation and so on, I have been invited in different workshops in MIT, Harvard, Oxford, Aalto University, Oxford Brookes University. But then I was trained about writing retreats in west of Scotland University. So after all this experience, being abroad and being invited in different universities, I have trying to be answering to this topic of your conference, right? So how to involve graduate students in developing a university's international research reputation. And well, as you can see, after this small background I was explaining to you, I think that something we can do in order to improve and, let's say, answer this question should be from two aspects, okay? So we can think about writing and how to improve writing skills, and also well-being and how to improve well-being, okay? So taking into account that productivity is a quality indicator that focus very much on staff publication and so on, my thing here is to say, well, why don't we consider PhD students and even master students for this productivity thing at university? Because they can contribute a lot on that. And why don't we do actions so that our doctorate schools become reference in the world, right? So which actions we can do in order to achieve all these objectives? So something we should do is having a look at very prestigious universities and see what they do in order to train their PhD students. So for example, MIT, as you know, is #1 in the world. And what they do is this idea I was talking to you about retreats. Well, so they join the students and write together. Now with the pandemic, it's different. They do it online, okay? So they do this kind of writing together online groups. So what we can do in our universities, besides some training on writing skills, is like making students write and giving them a space to write. So for instance, every Friday they can meet, and it doesn't matter if they belong to different disciplines, but they find the space to be together and write, you know? So this is something we can do. And actually universities that take action and do these kind of things, then the satisfaction with the PhD is very high in students because they don't feel alone. And now this of loneliness, I'm going to relate it with the second action that has to do with well-being. How can we take care of their well-being? Well, it's also quite easy somehow. We can try to give support and guidance to them, again, with a kind of community of learners. So let's say, for instance, that once a month, they meet all together and they share their news and problems and, oh, I'm in this situation, so how can I solve this? And all the students want each other, they can help each other very much, and they really have this support, because doing a PhD is something that you can feel very lonely. And well, that's all. I don't want to be like, you know, very long, because I think there are a lot of other people that can say also very interesting things. So I just wanted to be very brief on saying this small contribution. Oh, sorry, my camera, I don't know what I did out of a sudden. But okay. So thank you very much. In the back of my screen, if I can see something. Ah, so maybe in the chat? No? I cannot see anything. Oh, I'm so sorry. At the bottom of, wait, she says at the bottom of the screen, the glove sign. Switch on it. Let's wait. And then I have to choose English, she says. So interpretation, English. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Не так быстро, чтобы переводчик.
Yeah, thank you very much for this interesting presentation and the results of your research work. We have this unique opportunity because there are also PhD students from Russia who are still going this way And we would like Anna to comment everything that was mentioned by Maria. And we would like to request you, Anna, to describe your experience of the same work performed in Russia. What are the best practices that can be used now? Maybe you would like to share this in order to improve the quality of the PhD students' work. Because I was really interested to hear that the well-being issues you were focusing on them, Maria. It is really important. This is a very important factor, I think. So what do you think? How important is this to you, this well-being, psychological well-being? Because we need to speak about different points of view. We might have different vision. Can you please describe your approach? Thank you very much, Evgeny. Can you hear me? Please let me know, Maria. Maria, can you hear me? Let me know, please.
Yes, I do. So, shall I answer now this question? Yes?
Yes,
great.
No, now Anna will be answering this question. This is a question to Anna, and then you will share your... I'm the PhD student of the highest economic school of the education department, and I really think that it is a really important topic, the topic that we are discussing today. We are seldom discussing it in Russian. We almost never pay attention to the well-being of the PhD students. And in my work, in my PhD work, I also talk about this issue, about this topic, and I also describe the experience of foreign PhD students, and I talk about the experience of Russian students of different universities. And first of all, I would like to support your words, Maria, about academic writing skills. It's true, I agree with you, Maria, that we really practiced in the department where I study. There were people with the same tasks. We practiced the academic writing. We worked on the academic writing, and it was really useful. It helped us a lot to make some initial steps. I totally agree with you, Maria. But without relevant guidance, without support from colleagues, it can be a very difficult step where you can just give up. It's really important, but this well-being of PhD graduate, I think, is even more important than the writing skills. It's a very important topic for discussion, because there are two reasons why people sometimes are not happy with their PhD experience. First, their expectations meet the reality, and the reality is different to the expectations. And second thing is absence of social contact, absence of social links that would keep them in this profession, that would make them stay in this profession. I think that the most important experience for me, from the point of view of PhD student, was to understand that PhD student must initiate the communication to the person who is supporting his work, his master, and to other students as well. The communication is really important. He must initiate this communication himself. Many people cannot overcome this psychological threshold. They cannot just come to the conference quite frequently, scientific seminar, or sometimes they just refuse even from consulting of their scientific teacher, instructor. Not everyone is happy to have a very good scientific guidance. And if these two people, the PhD student and the head, the teacher, they do not match each other, or for example, the teacher is too busy, then that's a threat for the PhD student. And another factor, the relationships with the administration of the university. As my experience says, this might be a barrier as well. And some bureaucracy is there as well. It might stop from insights, and scientific work efficiency can prevent this. I think these are two serious factors, and I suggest to discuss how we can work with these two factors. In my publishings, I support to work in both directions: reduction of bureaucracy load in the PhD work and support provided to PhD student, help provided to him in order to make him be able to overcome this work, and support of the society, support of the community. For example, visiting seminars, and it's even better to work in groups with other PhD students. For example, academic writing skills groups. It's really important that during this academic writing, people are communicating, they are socializing, and they continue writing at the same time, because the process of writing of the article should not be stopped. It's the main risk for PhD students to stop writing. Thank you very much, Anna. I think you have mentioned very important thing about mutual efforts of administration and PhD students to achieve the success of PhD student. I would like to give the floor to Evgeny Mukhanov, responsible for international cooperation of the university. Evgeny, can you tell us how do you arrange this interaction with PhD students, with the graduate students, because we are talking in general about graduates and about PhD students, how you can help these PhD students? How is this arranged in your university? Maybe you know some good practices from other universities. How to support them.
Добрый день, коллеги. Надеюсь, меня слышно.
Thank you very much, Evgeny. I hope you can hear me, colleagues. Good afternoon. Thank you for this great opportunity to participate in this wonderful discussion. Can I skip my presentation? Yes, we can skip the presentation, but if you have some nice presentation, you can display it if you want. But we have a free format. It's up to you. I will try to show you this presentation as the support, as a visual support. I would like to show my screen. When I prepared for this event, I've decided to reject this presentation. When from the management position, from the point of view of manager, and using this site for speaking about science, talking about universities, we always speak about number of articles. And we say that we need more publishings, good publishings, but at the same time, we forget that the resources of the university are limited by the resources of those people who do this job. The ratio of the authors who work on this is 0.27. At the same time, this indicator for science, for universities, this indicator, the quantity of authors who has indicated that they are coming, graduated, they have graduated from this university. Can you please speak a bit slower, because there is a translation? Just a bit slower. So, to make the long story short, it's really important to understand that the PhD students and graduates cannot be not involved in the science. The university cannot have a task which is not related to the wish to to make the graduate want to come to this university to work. There are a lot of tools that ensure the interest of the graduate student or PhD student to come to work in the scientific sphere. And there is a huge number of grants and support programs, and we all are actively using them now. The program of support of graduates and employment support programs, all these programs work, but the systematic effect in this part cannot be achieved until we start changing the approach to this factor, to this term, involvement. I like this term, but this is kind of a part. This is a part of bureaucracy. Here you can see the sociology research work, and here we try to figure out what do students do when they are not occupied with the classes in the university. Only 11.6% of the students, they say that they are dealing with the scientific work. We don't know what do they mean when they say this, when they claim this, but these numbers are scaring. And to move away from the sad story, we understand this problem and we work on this. We analyze the social portrait of the student. And we now try to describe the children who will go to university later on. We try to explain them that science is great, it's interesting. We start showing the school children how interesting is the science, and it's cool. We try to convince them that it's cool. For those students who already study in the universities, we try to introduce the courses of popular scientific classes, and we try to improve the image of higher education. We use different methods to collect the teams from different departments to give them some scientific part and to see what will happen. And we can see the result. And I will try to generalize. We speak about the measures of involvement. And I say that it's really important to understand that there is a task, for example, in the sphere of biology, to generate the structure. And there are strong scientists who are going to involve strong students, PhD students and graduates. Of course, it might help, but in reality, it seldom helps. This third part, sometimes they just do not come to work to the university, and it's really difficult to make a young scholar to believe now that the scientific work is interesting and attractive, because young generation, they have a lot of opportunities and they have a lot of chances where to work. We use different tools of support. We develop our own motivation system, and we explain them that science is great and it's cool, but the system works differently. Initially, the structure, scientific groups must be created, and these groups must be open to the students. We say that we know for sure that high, strong science can be done, can be introduced by one student, by one graduate, by one PhD student, even in physics and chemistry. The structures that we are creating, I will not use this fashionable term greenfield. When we create these structures, we generate the structure, we form the structure which is creating the challenge. And the working team is able to create the agenda and plan the work if they are interested and if they are motivated. And only afterwards we will structure it into some institution. We tried to replicate this school, the Institute of Intellectual Materials. They are dealing with the research in physics. They practice mega science. And due to this structure, our university is a top leader of mega science in Russian Federation. If you check the structure, there are just 2 employees and 22 people are PhD students and graduates. They 100% of these students, they have defended their theses. And the average age is 27 years old. The creator of this structure is the Professor Soldatov, and you can see his picture. And this structure is very efficient. As a vice rector, I can see that this structure is extremely efficient. The scheme that I draw initially is the basis for their work, was taken as a basis. And Professor Soldatov is presented here, and quite frequently he calls himself not a research advisor, but a happiness director. Only happy people can work in science. A person who is concerned about, for example, lack of financial support cannot work in the scientific sphere efficiently. So he spends a lot of effort in order to solve the problems of each and every graduate and PhD student. So we consider this case is something which is to be replicated, which is to be used as a very good, efficient example. So we should create these kind of structures that would efficiently work with graduates and PhD students. And we think that this result proves that this is efficient approach. Here I would like to complete my speech. I am glad to answer your questions, and I think this discussion that we have now is one of the most important discussions in this forum. Because if we do not solve this task, what shall be done in order to attract the PhD students and graduates to the research work? All the national projects, goals will not be realized without achievement of this task. Thank you, colleagues. Now we would like to continue this discussion, but I would like to first of all give the floor to our fourth speaker today, Maria Abramova, the Director of Sociology and Education Center of Tomsk University. So we have heard the opinion of PhD students and the management, the vice rectors. And I know that Maria and her colleagues were researching the quality of the PhD programs, of graduates programs. Maybe you can share some results, Maria. What conclusions can we make?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Oh, it wasn't a large-scale research. Our task was to have a look at the factors which make doctoral programs effective. It was rather a quality research based on our university. In fact, we have to focus more on master program students. We have to keep in mind their trajectory, because students first enroll on bachelor programs, then they have to take a master program, and only then they are ready for doctoral studies. So if we want to train a researcher, this means that at this stage of training, there has to be a research component. On the other hand, we don't have to engage all master students into research. Master programs are different. There is a quite variety of them, because we have applied master programs and research-based master programs. While I'm saying that, I understand that many of the university master programs haven't yet identified themselves with a particular trajectory. I mean, students enroll in the master program, and then upon the completion of the program, they may either continue the research track or take an administrative position. And I think it is important to more clearly set for each master program, whether it's research-based or it is more practical in its character. Because sometimes we have these administrative professionals who want to enroll on a doctoral program, but that's a challenge for us because they don't have enough background to be effective in this role. How did master programs appear actually, historically? Many of them are just a follow-up, a continuation to bachelor programs. In Russia, before this division between bachelor and master programs, we used to have a single 5-year program of higher education. But today we see new master programs emerging, and that's a completely different story. I believe it would be more effective for those master programs that have been around for some years to review their approach. They have to understand that they are here not only to provide workload for academic staff, they have to understand that they are just a next level of education. So this is what we are trying to focus on at the moment. Regional universities, including the university I'm representing here today, have these common picture. You have the same students on bachelor, master, and doctoral programs. I mean, you have the same faces. Many people are critical of that. On the other hand, some of our professors say that, well, it's great because we are kind of nurturing our students. 70% of doctoral students took bachelor and master programs at our university. A similar story is true for master programs, with a slight difference. Very often we hear master students say that they are dissatisfied with their experience. And if they're dissatisfied with their educational experience, how can we engage them into further studies? So once again, I'd like to underscore that it's really important to introduce the research component into bachelor and master programs. And I absolutely agree with Maria Sirato, who said a lot about the importance of academic writing. Not every university, not every master programs runs such trainings, but I believe it's the key to success. I used to be more of a practitioner than a researcher. I'm a sociologist, and very often research in sociology is applied research. There is much teamwork, interaction, and when they have a tutor or, say, a research supervisor who has a lot of practical background, they perform much more effectively. When I was a student myself, I would often take part in projects, marketing projects, policy-related projects, sociological projects. So that was my trajectory. This is how I found myself in research activities. And please remember that many doctoral students have to combine work life and studies, and very often their work life isn't anyhow related to what they do on their doctoral program. Hence, we have this competition of activities, because then doctoral or master students simply don't have enough time for research. They simply don't have time for studies, regular studies. Big thank you for a very comprehensive answer. And I think the issue that you underlined is very important. We have to pay more attention to bachelor programs as well. So that's the beginning of the research trajectory for students. From 5 to 10% of students are willing to build an academic research-related career. So I have a question to Maria Sirato. Well, Maria, when did you develop this taste for research? What was the driver for you to engage in research activities? And what has kept you over the course of time being a researcher? So what's your trajectory, and what was the crucial factor, the crucial driver for you to engage in research and stay there?
Thank you. So can you hear me?
Да, прекрасно слышно.
Yes, we can hear you all right.
Okay, great. So you mean research in general and not my specific topic of research, right? So the question would be how I engage in general.
Yes, you're right, general.
Yeah, well, because when I was an undergraduate student, I remember I had a teacher and she was very good. And one day she just said, well, I have a research group. If any of you would like to join one day and to see what we do. And apparently it seems, because some years later, I have been speaking with some classmates about that issue and nobody remembered that fact. But to me, I don't know for what reason, I listened very well to this message. So one day I knocked her door and I said, hey, I would like just to see that day in class that you said and blah, blah. So that's the way I started. So I think it's a very strategic way when teachers at university, professors, if they just invite students to take part of their research and their projects and collaborate as volunteers, because it's also a way for you to see if maybe you like it. Because when you go at university, a lot of times, at least from my own experience, we don't even know that this exists in a way, unless maybe in your family you have researchers or, otherwise it's like a known world and you have no idea about that. So I think at least this is what I do now as a current university teacher. When I see a student that, it's like very good, I invite him or her to join some meetings because maybe, who knows, you are showing him or her a path and a way to start doing his own. So who knows?
Maria, большое спасибо.
Maria, big thank you for a very sincere answer. It has been very personal. Thank you. One thing I found important from our today's discussion is the communication within the university, between the university, the administration, and academic staff, and students, whatever level you take. I feel that there is a communication gap between the university and the student community. So how do you inform students of your university on the running research projects? Which information channels do you use to inform and engage students into research? Maria, I think that was a question to you. Oh, no, sorry, that was a question to Evgeny. Evgeny, can you hear us? Did you hear the question? Looks like your mic is off. So I'm really sorry. Could you please briefly repeat your question? So once again, I think that Maria touched upon a very important issue and a very important case. Very often we have a certain disconnect or a bridge in communication between university and students. Very often students don't know that there exists this wonderful world of science and research. They haven't been aware of that. They haven't had this practice and experience in their life. So how do you inform your students about the research initiatives that you run? Which communication channels do you use? How do you bridge this communication gap?
Can you hear me now?
А вы меня слышите?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Да, Мария, я сейчас хочу, чтобы Евгений ответил на этот вопрос.
Maria, if you don't mind, let's give the floor to Evgeny, and then we'll give the floor to you with this question. Thank you.
Для нас эта задача совершенно вопрос, который...
I'm sorry for the technical issue with the sound. So that's a pretty fair thing that you're discussing at the moment. It's a cornerstone of being successful or not successful as a researcher. It's about the awareness about some schools of thought within the university, some successful research groups. Very often students fail to know about all these research initiatives. And we have to understand as a university that when we want to engage students in research, we have to use a number of tools. And students like big challenges, an ideological task. A student should understand that when he or she becomes part of a project, when he is doing some research in the lab, they have to have this feeling that they're doing something useful for the community, for the city, for the country, for the whole world. And ideally, we have to have a personality, a charismatic personality, a high-profile person with great background and expertise, who will be like a role model for a student. So we are trying to use communication more transparent. It's a bit easier to communicate if it's a small university, but when it's a huge university, communication is complicated. So we are trying to hold certain initiatives, special face-to-face events. That's the thing that we call them. That's when we invite researchers to the university and organize open discussions with these professors or scholars. We run regular hackathons. We have students who are engaged in real projects commissioned by some industry leaders, and we ask them to share their feedback on how they work in the project. So there is no single answer to a question. You have to try out several solutions, a mix of the solutions. And when you try to engage a student, you shouldn't do it like a command, like a have to thing. The only way to attract a student is to attract them through a powerful personality, a leader with some charisma.
Okay.
As a follow-up, I'd like to address a question to Anna. Personal communications are hugely important.
Issues are important, but when the communication, when for communication, foreign language is used, for example, we have a number of PhD students from different countries. So how do you manage to overcome this issue? I know there was research work dedicated to involvement of Russian PhD students into the research groups. in other countries. Maybe you can share some experiences, because it's really important for the students to get involved and to adopt the language differences, language barrier. Thank you, Evgeny. It's true. The number of foreign PhD students on the basis of statistics is increasing continuously, and the following fact is important. And they have a very high degree of defending the theses, and we have to, of course, focus our attention on this group as well. We have performed the research work, and we have decided to talk to PhD students in St. Petersburg campus of highest economic school, and I was recruiting foreign students. That's why it was really important for me how to check, with the help of social science, what do these people think? What is their attitude? What is their impression? They were the PhD students from Moscow and St. Petersburg, and we realized that there are three main elements that can be a barrier or at the same time integration factor. The first one is, of course, the research advisor. If the research advisor is able to speak foreign language, if he is able to involve the student, because here the research advisor is to be interested, and he must answer all the questions and solve all the problems that appear. In this case, the research advisor plays even a more important role than in the case of the Russian student. And the second important barrier for foreign PhD student is our timeline schedule that is published in Russian. All the documents are also presented in Russian. And there are a lot of processes and procedures in the university which are still not translated. We have to pay attention to this. This is a psychological problem, reason, because foreign students, they always need to search for the interpreter, for the translator within the university to find out this information. And the third obstacle mentioned by them is that they are never invited into the research groups. And even considering the fact that they are doing the research work, they want to build their career, but still in our scientific projects, they are not invited. We know that, we know the way scientific groups are generated, how these research groups are usually formed. They are usually formed within some social groups, but we know there is some kind of man's club, like we can say people who drink beer together and then they do the research work together. Here, the same story. If the foreign student is not a part of the social group, some friends, he will not be able to enter this research group. And this is the reason of social disintegration of foreign student. That was also a very important insight, because this is counteractive with respect to what was mentioned by us in the very beginning, because we said that we are interested in this foreign PhD student. In the reality, sometimes we see it's not true. We know that sometimes there are research advisors who are foreigners. And these foreign research advisors, they include these PhD students from other countries into their research groups. So we come up with the situation when we generate these kind of ethnical societies, communities, when foreign research advisors include foreign PhD students in their grants, in their research works. So this is what's happening inside of Russian universities, some average size or large universities. There are some international collaborations which can motivate each other and can continue working together. Another insight is that there are internal Telegram groups and internal communities and interdisciplinary groups in the university. Some PhD students, when they get the information about grants and conferences, they share this information in the Telegram and in WhatsApp. So there is horizontal communication between these PhD students, and this is how the integration is realized. So these are interesting insights that we have faced during this research work. Thank you, Anna. I think that it was mentioned many times. The research advisor role is really important. He or she is the first contact point quite frequently, and he is the key person. The success depends upon this person. And I would like to ask Maria Abramova. I know that you have a successful experience. You managed to actively involve the graduates. How do you manage to do this? Where do you find them? And how do you perform this work? Because we have the point of view of PhD students now, and the research advisors' opinion is also very important. How do you manage to arrange this matching between the student and the research advisor? Then I will speak about my personal experience. Our center is quite young. The institute was established 1 year ago. So we are working with the graduate students. I am lucky. In fact, we need young scientists, and we really hope this work will be successful. I am actually the tutor, and I communicate to bachelor course students a lot. Our students must write their works. Starting from the second year of their program, I start to discuss those topics which are correlated to my scientific interests. The inclusion of students in such a way is evaluated differently in the community, because there is a point of view that I am somehow using the students by giving them the topics that I'm interested in. They think that I do not give them a chance to choose the topics freely. It's a wrong word. I just recommend them. I suggest them to write their works using those topics which are interesting to me. I had the experience with one graduate student when we just started working with her. I saw that she was a good student and her bachelor's degree work was perfect, and I've suggested her to choose one of the 7 topics. We have a lot of projects of national research works, and first she said, no, I'm not interested. I'm interested in the topic related to entrepreneurship. But finally, as a result, 1 year later, she changed her mind, and there was some material collected. She came up with the interest, and now, this year, I hope, successfully she will defend. So I think this is the most efficient way. When the graduate students or PhD students are involved in particular projects, scientific projects, and they work and communicate tightly with the research advisor, and then we can achieve this efficiency, because the communication is really important. It's true. And the communication and the feeling, the well-being of PhD student. I have another remark. Some time ago, we had this strange experience in university. The PhD courses worked 2 times a week only 2 hours per day only. And the person who worked with PhD students was so angry that PhD students were not eager visiting him and talking to him. It might seem a minor detail, and it's not related to writing the work of the student, but the fact that PhD student has to overcome this conflict, this fear of talking to the person who works in the PhD course office. This is important factor from my point of view. It's important for involvement in science. Thank you very much. I think you have raised a very important topic about this balance between control and independence of the student. How independent should a student be when choosing a topic, when we assign a degree and we certify a person? We certify that this person is the independent scientist. I would like to ask Maria Sirato, are there any results of importance of this degree of independence of PhD student in his activity? How important it is for PhD student to be independent? Or they are ready to agree to those topics which are offered by the research advisors, research groups. Maria, could you please comment? Could you please describe and share your experience? Do you have the results of any work, or maybe on the basis of your experience, you could describe this to us, Maria, please?
Yeah, well, first of all, sorry, because I don't know what happened before. And answering to the previous question, which is actually quite related with this other new question, I would like to add and complement to what my colleagues already said, that to me, something essential in order to, to pick up these students that are willing to participate in research and so on, a good thing is to get to know them well. And a good opportunity for that is all these moments in which you are supervising a work, a written work, a big written work, let's say, for instance, the final year project or their master project, because it's an opportunity in which you can really see if they are autonomous and if they have all these qualities to be good researchers. Because you are very surprised a lot of times to see big differences among them, even though you have given them the same instructions. But you can see well which of them have kind of a nice spirit to do research and they want to learn more and more and more. And actually, one recent experience that I can share with you, very recent indeed, I was supervising a master project of a girl. And then when I was having a look at her project, I said, well, this looks really like like an article, a manuscript. So I was suggesting her some journals and blah, blah, blah. So thanks to all this scaffolding, she out of a sudden said, well, yeah, I would like to publish this. Why not? So on the one hand, it's a good idea that the university doesn't hide all these research groups and projects and so on, because if you don't know them, you never can reach them. But on the other hand, it's also a good idea that the university can pick these students that have these good qualities. And as I said, through supervision, it's a good way, to see and to really see which students can be more ready for that. Yeah.
Мария, большое спасибо за этот развернутый ответ.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this detailed reply. And we are approaching to final step of our round table, but I still have a lot of questions. I have some questions to ask.
So, Evgeny, are you here? Are you online? No, I can see you. Great. One more question. That's a question about choosing a research supervisor. What are the university requirements to a person who is willing to have this status of a research supervisor? So what is the selection process in your university? That's a very good question. So I'll start with the doctoral programs, and then I'll say a few words about master programs. Some time ago, we started thinking about these low statistics of defenses of doctoral thesis. So we started focusing on the right selection practices concerning research supervisor. And from January to May, we try to get feedback from prospective doctoral students if they have any established communication with a prospective research supervisor. Whether they have publications already, what kind of publications are they? And those who become most successful candidates according to this early survey, then they are provided with a grant which gives them a certain number of scores, and they become postgraduate, they become doctoral students without taking the exams. And those who entered the doctoral studies through this grant program showed more effective results in terms of publications during the studies. 65% more of publications in co-authorship with their research supervisor. Another thing that we changed is the application process. We ask our prospective doctoral students to submit an application in the form of a research proposal. So there they show a pretty much detailed plan of their research work. And this plan is then evaluated by a certain board of academic experts, and then they make a decision whether they are ready to enroll these students. Before, very often we had such cases. We would ask a prospective student, what's that you're going to do during these 3 years of the doctoral studies? And they cannot give a clear-cut answer. Now let's turn to master programs. It's a bit more difficult there because the number of students is higher and the number of programs is higher. Starting this year, we launched a document that's called an individual working plan of a master student. It's like a roadmap that allows us to monitor on a term-by-term basis what's there a master student is doing in terms of research. So the research supervisor faces the task of supporting their students in drafting this document, and later on they monitor if they stick to this roadmap. So these are the tools that we find quite effective. A press service or a communication service is another important thing. So they would be somehow promote those research supervisors that are already at the front lines because, well, they have been performing quite effectively. These communication agencies should also deliver communication about the possible research avenues run at the university. Evgeny, we can't hear you. Obviously, there is some technical issue. The screen is frozen.
Евгений, мы пока вас не слышим. Я надеюсь, что получится.
Evgeny, unfortunately, we can't hear at the moment. I hope that you will be able to join us for the discussion and you will finish what you have been saying.
Но, коллеги, я предлагаю потихоньку завершать наш сегодняшний круглый стол. Мне кажется, мы довольно комплексны.
Dear friends, we are gradually coming to the end of our today's roundtable. I think we have been quite effective because we have looked at the challenges and at the same time we have analyzed best practices. Because these are actually two sides of the coin. You have to find challenges somehow. And how can you find the challenges? Through using best practices. So what we have to do right now is roll out the best practices. And of course, introduce some more. So to wrap up our today's roundtable that focused on the engagement of master and doctoral students on university research, I would like every participant of today's roundtable very briefly provide some recap or some feedback and answer one question. So imagine that you are now sitting in front of the Ministry for Education and you have a chance to give to him one piece of advice, what you can do to improve the situation in master's and doctoral programs. But this is not very relevant for Maria Sirato, I think. So I would like to reward this question. Imagine you have this opportunity to give this piece of advice to some official who is in charge of the development and supervision of doctoral programs in, say, European Union. So you have a chance to give an opportunity to give one piece of advice to this official. So could you please word the advice that you would give to him or her? And first, I'd like to answer this question to Maria Abramova. Honestly, I'm not the one who is ready to give advice to such high-profile figures. Well, it seems to me that in reality, what is more important is what's going on within the university, what's being done within some dedicated faculties or departments. We actually didn't touch upon the topic of what is a doctoral program. Is it the next level of education after the master program? Because this question arises many other sub-questions, and unfortunately we're running out of time. I think it would be more beneficial to give advice to particular research supervisors. I like the idea about the grant programs that Evgeny shared with us. I didn't quite understand the details, but I like the general idea. Oh, Anna, could you please also answer this question? I have an idea, a piece of advice in mind. I have been hearing very often from international doctoral students that there is an issue of financing. Scholarships for doctoral students in Russia are really low. And our international colleagues, of course, noticed that. So I would say that financially, the academic career for young professionals should be valued more and paid more. And Maria Sirato, what kind of advice would you give? Maria Sirato, are you still with us?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Sorry. I'm slow because I never use Zoom. Sorry. So one advice that I would give to supervisors is trying to, before I was talking about the idea of getting to know well the student in terms of the spirit for research and all these kind of things, right? And you can know this well before a PhD when you have him or her as an undergraduate, because the opportunity of writing a long project as it is a final year degree or master degree, it gives you the opportunity to see if he or she has some skills to do research. But then once students, PhD students are accepted, to me, I would say somehow that all of them can be potentially very good to research. So the best thing for the supervisor is to have this trust on the student, which is something that even it's very obvious, but we should try to translate this and communicate this to our student, that we trust on him, that we trust on her, and get to know well in terms, of his or her well-being. This component that I have been talking in my presentation, besides the writing, it's also very important, because it's not the same to feel stressed, which is something that at some point can be good, because feeling stressed means that you are active and ready to learn and acquire new content and so on. But it's not the same to feel stressed than feel anxious. Anxiety is different, and it's not a good thing. So it's not the same stress than anxiety, or it's not the same to feel exhausted or lack of motivation. If you feel exhausted, maybe it's a good thing. It means you are working hard. But when you are not motivated, when you are dismotivated, this can be very dangerous. And then the PhD process can get eternal or maybe endless. So you have to detect all these small things also along the PhD process. Thank you.
Да, Мария, огромное спасибо. Мне кажется, вот в конце у нас прозвучало...
A big thank you to you, Maria. I think it's a very important message, a message of trust. I think trust should be an imperative and something that we should follow as a slogan. And I think that's a very good ending to our today's roundtable. It's a matter of trust, and we have to encourage our students, school students, doctoral students to engage in research. The economy of knowledge we are now living in, research is the key. Is the key to social and economic progress. So once again, dear friends, I'd like to thank you for joining this roundtable. Applause to you. And I'd like you to have a very nice evening and a very interesting session tomorrow. Maria, Sirato, a dedicated thank you to you for joining us remotely. Evgeny, also thank you for joining us remotely. Thank you everyone for sharing your ideas and your vision. Thank you for your engaged participation, everyone. Have a nice evening, everyone. We have exhausted our today's agenda. Goodbye, everyone.
Каждый раз хватает времени все это обсудить. Ну, это да. Очень интересно, что вы рассказываете.